Hi everybody, Josh Byerly here at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. We're standing inside what we call the Dome. This is the facility that the astronauts train in to do all kinds of robotics operations while they're on board the International Space Station. And anytime a visiting vehicle is coming up there, this is actually where they practice. Now we've got the SpaceX Dragon flight coming up here in just a few short days. The crew's trained inside this very facility, and we've actually got two of the trainers here who train those crews. We've got Jeff, good to see you, and we got Graham.
Hi.
Now, Jeff, you train the crews on what to do whenever Dragon actually gets up to the capture point, and Graham, you train them on how to actually go get it and latch onto it and bring it into the station, right? Yep. Talk a bit about what you guys have done with the crews to get ready for Dragon.
Okay, well, for the rendezvous, Dragon approaches station from below, and the crew will start monitoring it from here in the cupola at a range of about 1 kilometer. And they'll be positioned here at the robotic workstation where we have 3 monitors which they can look at video from the station cameras. And on top of that video, we'll overlay some telemetry data that we're receiving from Dragon to show them things like range rate, vehicle mode, and so forth. But it also depicts graphically the approach corridor that Dragon has to remain within as it's coming up to space station.
Basically the box that it has to fly within.
That's right. And so they'll compare the actual video image to the limits that is based on the telemetry and make sure that all lines up as is expected during the approach.
So once it gets up there and everything is checked out, they'll actually go use the station's arm, which has been critical to assembling the station to reach out and grab onto it. Talk about how you train them to do that.
Yep, so Dragon's final position will be capture point hold, and the SSRMS end effector will be about 5 meters away from the grapple fixture on Dragon. The arm operator will go into a manual control mode, actually fly in and track any misalignments that Dragon has to go in for grapple.
So you talked about the manual control mode. You know, you can actually program the arm to do different things, but Don Pettit is actually going to be flying this thing himself while he's looking at those monitors, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, we can program the arm and do ground control, but the free flyer captures like this are so time critical. And because we're not really exactly sure the final position of Dragon or how it's going to move after we send it to free drift, then we kind of need to put a human in the loop to make sure that the arm stays well aligned and we can go in and grapple it successfully.
Now, Don Pettit's going to be the one doing this. Dan Burbank also practiced this quite a bit because it was going to be him doing this. He's going to be home by the time this thing arrives. So talk a bit about, how do you train the crew both here on the ground and then once they get up there to kind of take on a task that maybe they didn't think they were going to have to do?
Right. Well, Don knew that he was going to be involved in the capture, but more from the helper perspective for Dan.
Right.
But Don definitely did get some training in that role that Dan was in, and we're actually doing a little bit of training right now on board. We have a simulator on space station, as well as flying the real arm, so that Don can get comfortable in that new role for him in Dragon.
Now, I think a lot of people don't realize there's actually 2 robotic workstations. There's one in Destiny, which they've used a lot. There's one inside the cupola, which they love to use because of obviously the windows back behind you. That's actually where they're going to be, right inside the cupola, but they've been practicing inside Destiny. Are they the same? Are they the same layout, or what are they?
Well, they're slightly different layout. You can tell the cupola is a little bit more cramped. They do have the window views, which the crew likes a lot, especially for the rendezvous, so they can see the vehicle coming up. And actually, we've been doing a little bit of onboard training for the crew in the cupola these past couple weeks, so they've actually got a lot of practice, working through their coordination and figuring out how they want to lay out the cupola so that they have a successful capture day.
So this looks back behind you guys like the world's fanciest video game in space, right? So let's turn around and let's see actually what the crew's going to be doing whenever they actually pilot this thing and grab onto Dragon.
Okay, so now we've got Dragon at the capture point, and the arm is about 5 meters away. So I'm going to start maneuvering the arm in and maintaining alignment with Dragon in this center view. And once I'm over the grapple fixture pin, I'll pull the trigger, which will grapple Dragon. So I'm going to start moving in closer. Now
the crew's actually going to be seeing live views. We're not going to see an animation of it. It's actually going to be the real deal, right?
Absolutely. These would all be real camera views. So we have some external camera views on station. We also have some camera views on the arm itself. So this particular camera is actually looking from the end effector of the arm straight out at Dragon.
And is there a target that they're trying to line up with, or how do they know?
There's actually an overlay target on this camera view, as well as a target on the grapple fixture itself. So once those 2 line up, then the crew is in tolerance to actually do a grapple. So I'm moving in a little closer here. Okay, I'm about 2 meters away from Dragon right now.
So the readouts that you're looking at tell you how far away you are from it, how fast you're approaching it?
Yep, so there's a lot of telemetry on here that the crew is monitoring to make sure that they have a successful capture.
How do you know when you've gotten close enough? Does it give you an alert, or what does it do?
Well, basically, if you can tell, there's a white line on this target here that's coming into view.
Yeah.
Once it goes between the two red lines on either side, then you know that you're close enough to actually pull the trigger.
Okay.
So right now I'm about half a meter away. A little closer. I'm over the pin, and then I'm in tolerance now, so trigger. And then the crew will start watching telemetry on this overlay here. They can find that the snares have now closed around the grapple fixture pin on the lee, and the entire structure is kind of rigidizing back to secure Dragon and make sure that we've got a good firm hold on it. And that's just finished, so that would be considered a successful capture.
Just like that.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about the snares. A lot of people, don't understand that the end of the robotic arm actually has three sort of wires that are shaped kind of like a triangle, and they just kind of, tighten down on whatever the target is, right?
Yep, absolutely. When the operator pulls the trigger on the arm, it will actually exercise those snares. There's 3 of them, and they'll basically wrap around the grapple fixture pin to get a good hold on it, and then the entire structure will start to pull back. That'll put tension on those snares and also bring Dragon flush with the end effector.
And then once that's done, they just maneuver it back up and put it on the bottom side of the harmony node, and that's it, right?
Yep, that's basically it.
It sounds so easy, but I mean, these guys train for hours to do this. Talk about it on a difficulty scale. Is it something that's challenging for them, or what are the hardest parts of it?
The hardest part is probably the grapple itself, I would say, because the Dragon is moving, so you actually have to track a moving target as you go in. And then from there, you would do a couple of maneuvers to take it down to right above node 2 nadir, and then you would do a maneuver to berth it in. So they do get a lot of training to make sure that we can do it successfully.
Now they're going to be watching it very closely whenever it comes up that kind of approach corridor, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. If it is anything out of position, or can they still grapple it even though it may be turned the wrong way, or if anything like that happens? I mean, is that something they can still do?
Well, during the approach, they'll definitely watch and make sure it's at the right place. They do have opportunities to send commands to the vehicle if they do see something before reaching the capture point. So they have some ways to deal with those situations. And of course, we'll be talking with the ground about what they're observing on board. But in terms of the actual capture, it's a little more difficult than that.
Yeah, the arm has a lot, this particular configuration for the arm has a lot of analysis behind it to make sure that we can support capture, because it's a kind of stressful thing for the arm. We're going to be putting a lot of loads on it. Basically, you've got this big vehicle out there with a lot of inertia that you have to bring to a stop. Yeah. And so we need to have a good arm config to be able to support that.
Talk a bit about, how exciting is it that you guys are training these crews for a brand new vehicle that has never been up to the space station? It's a pretty historic flight, and you guys are a key part of that. Is it cool?
Absolutely.
It's
been great working with the SpaceX folks, and as they've been continuing the development of their vehicle and kind of relaying the new things that we've learned about it and changes to the crew, so they're ready to go. So it's definitely been a unique experience.
Yeah, it's a complete honor, and working with the crew, of course, is always fun too.
Well, thank you guys very much. We look forward to it.